pleasure to moderate this interesting panel, Leading Football Forward. We have with us three leaders of the industry that need no introduction from three very, very relevant and important institutions: PFA, representation of players; Norway Football Association; and UEFA ExCo member, Sao Paulo Football Federation. So we're going to break the ice with the topic of governance. Of course, we have lived through very different and difficult times over the last 5-6 years. I would like to hear from you, and from the point of view of your respective organizations, how do you see, or what pillars do you think are essential for a good governance in football now, to challenge or to face all these difficulties that the world is having? So if we can begin with you, Maheta.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's really good to be back in Madrid, especially coming from London. Seeing a bit of sun from time to time is not a bad thing. I think you're actually kind of touching upon a very important discussion. From a PFA or union perspective, obviously, the concern is seeing that, unfortunately, when you talk about key decisions, when you talk about the future of the game, you see that around those key tables, you do not have the voice of the people who ultimately are the product. I think unlike any other industry, the product are the players, and Lise, you're a former player yourself, and I think it's concerning to see that key decisions are made without having the voice of the player. And I think one of our main focus has been to make sure that this happens going forward. And we've reached a stage where it's not just a question of what we think should happen, is that the court decisions are starting to say, hold on a second, football is a special industry, it's one where passion is involved, etc., but it's still a business activity. It cannot be above the law. And therefore, in any other industry, if you need to talk about working conditions, it would be the employers and the employees who sit down and agree to things. But in football, probably because it's a bit above the law, or has been above the law, there was a perception that maybe organization could unilaterally impose condition upon the main actors. And I think we're at a time of opportunity, I think, of trying to do things differently. And we are hopeful for the future, but it's an important discussion to be had at this point in time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not just the pillars, no, but you also talk about how decisions are made and the processes. From your perspective, Lise, and in Norway, you also manage the league as well as federation. It would be great to hear from you these pillars, also processes you think should be or have to be in place.
Yeah, governance in football is more than, just a part of your job. It's the whole fundamentals of what you're doing as a president of a federation or a leader of an entity governing the game. It's a legacy, I guess. And of course, you cannot go around. I agree with you. Of course, you cannot just see players as stakeholders. They are the workforce of the game, so they have to be part of decisions. So one pillar in the good governance of football is, of course, to avoid seeing the owners of the game as stakeholders. It's difficult because you have busy days and they are stakeholders, but you have to see that they actually own the game. It's a commercial product, but it's much more than that, and also less than that. It's owned by someone else than you. It's not your business to just sell. So one pillar should, of course, be you just have to have, I'm not going to use the political charged word democracy. It's not the political direction I'm getting to, but you have to use involvement as a methodology, like you're saying also. And that takes also competence. Then you need people, agile people around you. It's not just a word you can say that we need to involve stakeholders or decision makers. It's how you have built up your whole pyramid. So in my experience, this is getting more and more difficult because it's more and more pressure to go, in the confidential rooms. It's big business, it's highly commercial, it's cross borders, going also from Europe to other continents. It's getting more and more global. But then it's even more important to build competence around the word transparency, for example. It sounds like a moral word, but it's maybe that also. But it's a competence to be transparent. You you have to show to your owners, which is not just investors, it's also the people. And that these things can never be cliches of speeches or media interviews. It has to be how we actually work. So in my experience, this is getting more and more difficult, but more and more crucial. If you see the ECJ verdict, for example, the reason why we can still have the monopoly, it's because we have a pyramid of solidarity. That's why. That is why you have that power. So I guess we cannot speak about governance without speaking about broad inclusion and engagement of stakeholders. And to do that, you need, a high degree of transparency, and unfortunately also to meet critical audience like media.
Mm-hmm. I will ask for some examples of some of the things you were saying in a bit. But first, with you, Mariana, you come from the Sao Paulo Federation. The governance model in Brazil it's particular. It would be great also to hear your perspective on these topics, governance, pillars that need to be in place, processes, etc.
Okay, so good morning. At first, I would like to thank the opportunity of being here. I'd like to thank São Paulo's Football Federation for nominating me to be here, and also our school, which is FPF Academy, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm kind of nervous, actually, because I can't be as funny as I am in Portuguese and English, but I'm going to try. I'm going to give my best. I don't know if you're familiar with Brazilian system, but Brazil is the largest country in South America, and we are divided into 26 states and our federal district. For each state, there is a football federation, which are converted into our confederation, which is affiliated to FIFA. So CBF is FIFA's member association, and us federations, we are affiliated to CBF and indirectly to FIFA. There in São Paulo, so you can realize we're the largest one. Last year, we have organized over 5,000 matches. We have organized 26 competitions, and we have registered over 36,000 athletes. If we were directly a FIFA member association, we would be on top 5 in the world, considering our numbers, so we are really big. And also, we are a governance model there in Brazil. I'm really proud of being part of that. And talking about our governance, we talk not only about rules, we talk about values. Our values are based on ethics, transparency, and hearing clubs. The clubs are affiliated to us, and we try to hear them every time, and we try to give them measures, and we try to give them education to provide governance in their own clubs, and to provide that to the athletes. So talking about clubs, there are 2 arms that I can talk. There are 2 pillars. The first one is FPF Academia, which is our school. So we provide courses to them. We give courses to them, managing courses, courses to coaches, and all kinds of courses to try to teach them how to perform good work. Also, there is a particular thing which is our program of excellence, which we call PAX. It's kind of a competition where the clubs compete with themselves in the last year. So there are measures, there are goals that they try to reach. If they are better than themselves were the last year, they give prizes, and these prizes are in money, and this money must be spent with governance issues. Mm-hmm. Also, we are very focused on diversity stuff. On diversity issues, Brazil is a racist country, as the word is racist, and football itself, it's racist. It's a racist environment. We can't close our eyes for that. So we have a diversity committee. We have built a treaty, which all stakeholders have signed it and compromising themselves with that. And we try to focus on the victim. We try to give people education, and we try to educate our athletes, listening to them in our clubs. So I think the key word for governance is commitment and working together.
So some interesting topics have arisen from there, on top of what was previously said, speaking of values, commitment. I think it would be great for the audience if each one of you could give and provide an example, a practical example, on how you dealt with governance issues or how you promote good governance within your organizations. So for example, with Maheta representing players, I'm sure you've faced loads of challenges, not just domestically, but also internationally. So if you could provide an example of the efforts that the PFA does to promote and foster good governance, would be great for the audience.
Well, I think it needs to start with your own house, you know. I think if you want to predicate stuff to others, if you want other people to do certain things, I think you need to start with your own organization. I think, and I've got a board member here, distinguished board member here with us today, and I think what we've tried to do, I think, at the PFA is to acknowledge that at some stage, you know, maybe we had lost a bit of connection with the players, and sometimes, you know, to improve, you need to first do an introspection and see what you do right and what you do wrong. And we said that we needed to be absolutely fit for purpose as to how we're governed. And what we've done is, on the one hand, create a players board, which has representation of 2 players for each of the category. And I've got another board member here, Tim Krul, is also here with us. But basically, and those people have been elected democratically to represent the voice of the players. So, for example, we have the same representation for male and female. So Tim Krul has the same weight as Lucy Bronze or Kim Little, who have been elected on the women's side to represent WSL. So we have a players board, and then we have an operational board, which is made of people who have a distinguished career, who are non-football people in the main, and basically try to give us a different perspective. You know, we've got people with a finance background, we've got people on the governance background, people on the AI background. No, I think we want to be ahead of the curve and understand what data can do for you. So, and for me personally, as a CEO, I think it's very interesting to one day be talking to a League 2 player that sees the world in a certain way, and the next day you're talking to an investment banker who sees the world from a different perspective, and the next day you're talking to someone who used to work for TikTok and sees the world from a completely different perspective. So I think we acknowledge, as Lisa was saying, that yes, it's good to have players involved, but they need to be competent, they need to be educated, they need to be well prepared. So on the one hand, our own governance structure, and it's been fantastic because, do I need to repeat now everything that I said? No, I was saying that on the one hand, I think we've made an effort to create a governance structure that would be fit for purpose, transparent, and with accountability. But on the other hand, we've also acknowledged that, as Lisa was saying, it's all good to say players need to be at the table, but those guys need to be competent. So we have created a PFA business school, where basically we give courses to players to become the next CEO, to become the next sporting director. And we've got very top profile, from Ilkay Gundogan to Aspilicueta to Jordan Henderson to Johan Wissa. So all people who, on the one hand, play football, but on the other, get ready for whatever they maybe want to be doing next.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. And I think these kind of examples are great to be explained, and people know some specific things that happen. I particularly liked the way you started, you know, leading by example and doing the homework first. And I think that's something particularly relevant, especially in this topic. From your side, Lise, you're on top of, you have clubs, federations, regional federations, players, so pretty much the entire ecosystem to administer, to manage. So as well, if you could provide an example of how you're trying to promote good governance or something similar, would be appreciated.
I don't even know if I can get an example, because I think it's what I do. You know, it's my job to try to promote good governance. I think every top leader in a football entity, that's the main job, because football is the biggest sport in the world. You don't have to, of course, you have to promote areas of it, but the engagement is there. So you have to govern it with. So the biggest and most important word for me is not, you know, money or financial success or position. It's the word trust, and also keeping it real all the time. Not like this. Yeah, again, speech is word. You know, what is trust? Why do you trust me? Why would my members trust me? And of course, the same. How can I trust the people around me? So things, for example, for my own leadership, I would do is, when we have a board meeting, I would try to hear every board member in every case, and also try to measure myself. Do I ever change my mind? You know, do I change my mind in meetings? And because it's very easy to, you know, stick to what you have were decided. You have some stakeholders. You do this 100%. It's your full job, and you meet the board members. They're volunteers. It's easy then to just do anchoring to get your decision through. You know, which is then you lose so much in good governance. So to practice what you preach, you know, it's I have examples every day. For example, now we played also Israel, a very tough game for us also politically, and it's a horrible game to even speak about. But then we're very into transparency, and then we decided to have a press conference the day before, and where the Israeli journalists and everybody could ask whatever they want and speak how long they want, and nothing easy about it, not fun, not very difficult, but then you also learn something yourself, and about being humble for other people's very difficult positions. So for me, being a football leader, I think it's to really grasp every week that football is owned by someone else. Transparency. I think you have to relearn it every week, because we all know it's words that come into speeches, but it's very difficult to practice, because you have media's attention and you have all this money at stake all the time, so it's easy to become, and you, of course, sometimes you have to be a bit dense, and you cannot have vote for everything. But every week, at least for me, I have to remind myself, no, you haven't changed your mind in a long time. Now you're not really listening. So for me, the mirror, I guess, is the biggest example I can give. That, and also, of course, to have people around you that now you're bullshitting, being critical to you, and players that are really critical, because it's very easy to say also that players are very important stakeholders, but as you know, some of them don't really care about politics. They think it's something stupid. I was like that as a player myself, but then they're not really useful in the room either, because politics is a division of money, and you know, politics is what runs the business. So for us to really do actions to bring players up to speed, but also do actions so that we get female leaders into the business, for example. So we say that we know that it's discrimination everywhere. We know that we are too few women in leadership in football. We can speak about it as it's a problem here, and we point at it, or we can try to make decisions. And then, of course, you will criticize. The first thing you will hear is that it should be about competence, not because it's a woman. Of course, but when you have a biased system, you sometimes have to do something to get that governance in place. So for me, this is the core part of choosing to be a leader, not in a business entity, but in football. So you have to be conscious of what you've said yes to.
Interesting comments, particularly the trust word. I think that's very, very powerful and very relevant. I liked what you mentioned of the mirror, no? And I think it's a very, very, very interesting approach. Mariana, from your perspective, if you could provide an example of good governance between yourselves, the Confederation.
Well, we have many examples. There are many projects and activities. I can think in three of them, which I'm very proud of. First, our integrity program. So we have had, in the last years, many match manipulation schemes there in Brazil. None of them were in São Paulo, because since 2015, we have provided our athletes and clubs education concerning to this matter. And we have our own projects, and we have our own rules to prevent it. So I'm very proud that we give this information to athletes, and they are aware of what's happening. Also, I would like to share with you our club licensing system. In our club licensing, to participate in our competitions, so we provide 5 levels of competition, and each of them has its own licensing, and each of them with their own rules. And our club licensing provide governance rules that clubs must follow. So it's very nice, and one of them are female leadership. So clubs must have female leaderships, and female occupying some coach positions there. And we are very proud of them. And also there is a project which is more recent that we call, in English it would be less hate plus football, where we try to teach people, oh, come on, football is a different environment, but you should be polite there. You should respect other people. Because sometimes people go to the stadium and they forget everything they learn at home about education, and they start telling bad words, and they start to cursing the referees and everyone. So we are trying to teach people to be nicer with each other. I'm very proud of that. Lise was talking about female leadership, and it's really rare to find female women in leadership positions in football in general. So as a woman, I'm really proud to be a part of it and try to bring it. I think football, not only it's an industry, but we must never forget that we bring people emotions. We bring emotions to their homes. We bring them joy. We bring them memories. Most of the greatest memories I have in my life, I'm at home watching, or I'm in the stadium watching football games with my family, with my friends. So it's very special, and we must never forget that. So we should be an example, because we're more than an industry. We're football.
This setups the next question that I want to share with you perfectly, which is how, from your different perspectives, organizations, how it can be tackled or addressed on one hand, commercialization of the game, looking for extra revenues constantly, and not going against the foundations and the soul of the game, which is not an easy balance. So we'll start with you again, Maheta, from your perspective.
Well, I really think that football needs to rediscover the value of scarcity. You know, I think at times there's a bit of an overdose of football, and I think, you know, Christmas is nice because it's once a year. If Christmas was every Friday, then it's no longer Christmas, no? And I think we tend to always look at what the other kind of markets do, and when you look at the US sports, the NFL plays 17 games. They make in excess of 10 billion. The Premier League, which is arguably the best football product or soccer product, plays 38 and they make 4 billion. So surely there's a reflection to be made. Why is it that those guys who only play 17 games make twice as much money as we do with the most premium product? And why is it that in the US, instead of all eating to the same pie, they start one sport, finish, then the next one starts and finishes, then there's no overlap. Whereas here, we tend to think that more games means more money, but it's not true. In fact, I would go as far as saying that there's only one TV pie. That TV pie is not getting any bigger. This is just the reality, and therefore, when you have new competition, when you have extended new competition, all you do is add one more guest trying to eat into the same pie, or add another hungrier guest, try to eat into the same pie. And what happens is, since this is still the same pie, what goes to one does not go to the other. And people wonder, what has happened in France? What has happened in less premium kind of properties? That simply the broadcast, when he has a choice, he makes a choice. And it means that people think that the calendar, for example, is only an issue for the minority of players. It's just not true. Don't worry about them. They will find a club, their life will go on, whatever. But worry about the next tender of TV rights for certain countries when they will discover that the pie is not getting any bigger, and what goes to the new hungry guest is not going to that league in Belgium, to that league in France, to that league in Switzerland, to the EFL in England. This is the reality. Don't worry about the Premier League. They'll continue kind of in that trajectory of going up. And this is the thing that people don't talk about. People talk about the extended competition, the new competition, but we're all eating into the same pie, which is not getting any bigger. And this is, leaving aside my role today as a PFA, this is my concern for the future of football. People who do well in business, in sports, understand that less is more, and we in football think that more is more. So,
well, no, interesting approach, definitely, and I'm sure it will make people think and reflect. From your perspective, Lise, it's been mentioned again, the importance of a federation, yourself as president, like a custodian of the game in Norway. So it'd be great to hear, how do you see this reality in which we are, looking for more money, more commercialization, but still keeping the soul of the game, the social purpose, etc.?
Of course, it's the biggest challenge we have. We cannot change should not be an enemy. You know, we have to make money, and I'm running, and we are running also the men and the women's side, and we know the biggest challenge for the women's side is to get in more commercial. So it's not an enemy to commercialize. We really want the league on the women's side now to sell more tickets in Norway, for example, and in Europe. So it's a friend of ours also on that side. On men's side, you see that it's more dense, you know, and like you say, it's about leadership to say that it's enough. Of course it is. We all know it's enough, and you cannot add on and add on and add on, because then you also see it from players. This year is the first time I ever heard players, big profile players, because they would never complain about games, maybe to family, but never to a president or. But now they are, and it is obviously enough. So that is about leadership. We all know the systems we are a part of. So it's not easy. It's difficult. And money is of course important. And the biggest threat to the European sports model, I think, now is federations now being very close to states. And no, I'm not criticizing that at all. It's just then you will go a bit away from the volunteer-based club grassroots, that what actually made football the biggest soccer, the biggest community sport in the world. So I think it's crucial that we, of course, whoa, who was that? The identity, the very identity. So this is the biggest challenge, how to look into multi-club ownership, how to look into ownership of leagues, how to look into federations that now want to use a championship and national team events to bring up the nation's ambitions, not the community. How to do that without losing the community-based, club-based product the football is. And football, by the way, it can never be a product. And of course, this is the European context. I really realize that. We all have to speak across the borders, and it's useful to do it also. But I think the biggest threat now is for us Europeans to the European sport model is that we move more and more away from community and solidarity, and then you will just face all these lawsuits. But why have a monopoly if you not protect the reason why you have this monopoly? So I cannot say that I have any solutions to this. I just think, again, it's not words. It should be who is elected, who's the competence you have around it. Are you interested in these topics? Are you interested in have 50 meetings with stakeholders? Because these things are tiresome. So if you don't like them, you should not be in the business. So, and of course you need also purely business people in boards, of course, but they cannot be only the majority. So I don't have any solutions. In Norway, this is a huge discussion. We have fully membership-owned clubs, and it's always an ongoing discussion if they should be a different model. And I'm not reluctant to change. I think it's very important to see how we can earn more money to give back to the communities and the clubs. Maybe our model is too far, but we're still proud of it, and I think any change should be very evolutionary, not revolutionary, and it should be, one careful step at a time.
Thanks, Lise. Mariana, you introduced this topic, and you were telling about your memories as young with football, related to football. How do you see this now in your responsibility within a federation, and how do you try to keep this balance, commercializing the game, not the product, the game, and keeping the values and the relevance for the social and for the fans?
Just as Lise was saying, money is important. We can't close our eyes for that. Money actually is important. We must have money so we can reinvest in stuff. But we sell the same product for the last century and some years. 11 guys on one side, 11 guys on the other side, and they're trying to take the ball somewhere. So it's the same product. So we have to reinvent ourselves because it is interesting. People love football. Talking about Brazil, football moves people. Everywhere you go, you can find guys and you can find kids and teenagers playing on the streets. For me, it's very strange to walk around here in Europe, that I walk around and sometimes I see people playing rugby, sometimes I see people playing football, some people playing tennis. There in Brazil, generally you only see people playing football. Most of people love football, but football is losing space there in Brazil. And I think that part of this is because of what we've been seeing in the last years. We had some problems in our confederation, we had some problems in our state. Actually, our national team is not doing so good as you've been seeing, but we are trying to reinvent ourselves. Looking for the grassroots, looking for the kids and trying to find new talents and trying to reinvest in them and trying to find governance models to make that this money goes to the right place. Because making money never means that you are spending this money correctly. I think that the hardest thing to do is to balance this. Up to where football is a business, is an industry, and up to where it's the future of people. It's the thing that people dream. Many kids in Brazil, their dream is to be a soccer athlete, a football athlete. If I asked my brother when he was young, what would you want to be when you were a grown-up? He would say, a football athlete. And most kids in Brazil think this way. So football represents future to many kids and changes people's lives and bring people's memory. So we never must lose this focus that it's not a normal industry, it's football, and we have to face it as something different. There is a fantasy component in our industry that we must never lose focus.
And talking about the future, we're going to finish with the last question for you, for the three of you, which is what elements do you think should be either strengthened, changed, or incorporated in football to ensure that in the next 10 years, football remains legitimate, sustainable, and with the integrity of the game? So we can start with you, Maheta.
You always throw a difficult question to me first, no?
Always.
I think that we need to put the focus back on the product, on what is happening on the pitch. I think when I look at the last kind of international window now, is it good that Lamine Yamal, Rodri, Bellingham, arguably some of the best players are not on the pitch because of stuff around injury? That's wrong. I want to see the Ballon d'Or on the pitch. I want to see Lamine Yamal, who is not just good for Barcelona and Spain, is good for football on the pitch. And they're not on the pitch. And that, I think, is a defeat for everyone. And therefore, I think we need to do whatever it takes to make sure that what we see on the pitch is of the best possible quality. Because we live in a world where we compete against other sources of entertainment. We shouldn't be kind of living in denial, you know. Football is competing not just against other sports, against other sources of entertainment. And my kids nowadays, they can understand the quality or not quality. And plus, the difference between them and maybe me was that they don't follow clubs, they follow players. And therefore, they follow Laman. If he's not there, if Bellingham is not there, they don't have an interest because they follow him. And therefore, I would love to see a future of football where making a priority to make sure that what you will see on the pitch is the best possible quality should be the priority. Because the rest, it's all good to have a nice shop and the best kind of sellers, etc. But if the quality of the product is not good, you don't have an industry. And I think that's what is at risk right now in football.
It was a very clear statement, Maheta, thank you. Lise?
Yeah, it's coming from a player organization. And I would also say that clubs are, the DNA of football. I know that you will have more followers for Instagram for one of the big players, but we all know that the reason why football is, so huge, and it's because you cannot think of my hometown Bergen without Brann. You know this, Jorge. So it's the big, movement of football is related to the community. And then you have also Messi, Ronaldo, they also follow, but it's a community you belong to. And if we forget this in the commercialization, at least in Europe, it's our DNA. And sometimes we do forget it. We say it. That's why I'm into the speech thing. We say it because we know it. But when you go into boards, it's not so often discussed how we can redistribute more to communities, more to solidarity. So I think that's one element that it needs to be a competence around. It needs to be real energy in that word, community and solidarity, always. That's the ecosystem, that's us. Secondly, I think we have to be really passionate about rules-based system. We know where we're heading. You see the different in the politics in the world outside football now. It's not going in a rules-based direction. And it's not going to be good for us if we follow that authoritative direction. We have to, be a bit boring, be to the rules. We have to work with principles. What should we do when countries are at war, for example? I'm not saying it's easy to have a regulation, but it needs to be discussed with people competent with principles, so that when it becomes political, we have something to lean on. We can not just be used in a big man, maybe a big woman afterwards sometimes, but big man direction. And thirdly, I would mention women football and female leadership now, because less is more on the men's side now. We know it. We all know it if you think about it. We need to keep it more exclusive. But on the women's side, it's growing. So it's a responsibility for us now to look at that with innovation, not like political words, innovation, and put real competence in that new fan base, avid fans coming to the women's side. And there you can commercialize without losing the soul. So that's the three things I will mention now is keep the clubs. Yeah, players, of course, always important. The community, solidarity, rules-based system, and look at the new rock and roll now is to really bring up the women's football. This summer was the first time we had, a Euro where only 2 games were not sold out. It's a movement, it's a new one, and we can create new workplaces for a lot of people.
Brilliant, Lise. And then to finish the panel, Mariana, you have the honor. If you could let the audience know what elements you think should be kept, strengthened, or introduced to ensure football remains.
Talking about future, I think that we must focus on being diverse and being reunited. We want football to grow. As has been said here, football is losing space, and this should not happen. So we have to focus on innovation, on new things that are coming. We're going to have until 2027 in Brazil the Women's World Cup. So I think it's going to be a turning point there. And I think it could bring more girls to dream of being a future football athlete. Female football was forbidden in Brazil for 40 years. It's unimaginable to think of something like that, and it's growing. And I think the future is in diversity, in having women occupying leadership positions and women occupying the pitch. And working together, everyone, for the same future, never losing the view that football is more than just an industry, it's more than just a product. It's something to dream about and to go on.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much to the three of you, Mariana, Lise, Maheta. I think the audience has a lot to think from what has been said, and I would please ask a big round of applause.